All right, we're up and rolling now. This is the Truth Movement Checkpoint 2026. It's well into February now, February 22nd. We kicked off the year. I didn't really talk about it, but I figure it's a good opportunity to just talk about where we are as a community, as a truth movement. I want to address some misconceptions, some misunderstandings. Okay, I can't help but be a contrarian sometimes, so this is what I'm spending my weekend thinking about, and let me share some of that with you. Misconception number one, things. This is a little bit cathartic for me, right? It's going to be a little bit like a therapy session because some of the things I hear on a daily basis, a lot of it I like, some of it just irritates me. It irritates me, and I don't agree with it, and this is my opportunity to share this different view, right? It's probably going to be another short show. It's not going to be that much, so it's going to be like 2 out of 3 weeks that you're getting not the usual. I noticed that YouTube doesn't really like that, where you have, I'm used to doing an hour and a half shows, and then I did like an 11-minute one 2 weeks ago, and nobody saw it. So I learned that this is one of the things, right? In order to be successful on YouTube, you have to really put out content that fits a certain cookie cutter format. That's kind of the same, which I'm not saying is all bad, because a lot of the things I like, the content creators, the stuff I watch, maybe not necessarily even truth and freedom related. I kind of they do that, of course. They're successful, so they have the same kind of a video. It follows a particular format, and I like those. That's why I'm subscribed to them. So no complaints on that. Just that's reality, and that's the point of this show, is for me to kind of recalibrate and go back to reality. Um, we tend to this movement tends to drift away from reality every now and again. You have people that are great; they're solid overall. If I could definitely see it in a glass half full kind of a way, and I guess it's a more glass half empty type of an episode. Of course, I believe in both ways of seeing it, but um, yeah, this is that aspect of it, and it's all about just that's what calibration is about. You go a little bit to this side, you have to go back to the other side. So today I'll be a voice for a return to reality, and perfect intro into our first misconception, which is we're winning. That we're winning, good things are happening, people are waking up. We've all heard over the years some version of that being propagated by people in this community. Things are changing a bit finally, is what I'm hearing. 15 years ago, people used to say that there's an awakening happening, right? Some people still do say that. The issue is that somewhere along the way, the bar for what winning is has been lowered. It's not what it used to be, because people, like, what we're talking about is impact and effective change in the world, right? That's what we should want. So the progress would be either the system of surveillance and control has been technically and functionally weakened, either we've gotten more powerful relative to them, or there's less abuse and injustice among the people. If there was less violence, less abuse, less injustice in the world, that you could say that we're winning then, right? Or if our truth and freedom community had a network, had an infrastructure that was in a better state. I don't see any of that happening. I don't see any of it happening. Um, More people, we can point to the people that have woken up, right? People maybe even in the mainstream society, right? Some celebrities have woken up. You hear ideas that previously were not discussed in the public eye now could be discussed in the public eye, and that is confused for winning. See, the way I see it, knowing the truth is important, but just knowing is not the measure of progress. No way. It's acting on that knowledge that is the measure of progress. What has actually been done? Doing videos and doing podcasts is not victory in itself. And this is coming from a guy that does videos and podcasts. This is not the actual victory. This is not the war that's going on right now. You're not watching a warrior in action. Not really. whistleblowing and sharing information, writing, speech, art, that's all the prep work for the victory. That is the prep work, the preparation stage that then the action can be built on top of to actually change the world, to make things different and have observable results that you can look back on as a result of that prep work. I am under no illusions that I am doing something heroic or warrior like by doing this show. I believe that living your entire life a certain way is that. As a totality, you can be a hero and a warrior. That's why I do my Warrior Path series, or I used to do it, and all this stuff, and just living your whole life that way, not just your online life, but how you are with your family, how you handle your business at work, how people see you in your community. And I honestly wouldn't say I'm there. I'm not telling you even that I'm that 360-degree aspect example of that individual. So I'm heading there. I'm on my way there. I'm trying to get there. That's my goals. But yeah, no way. And I love optimism. I love shooting for the moon. I'm generally a glass half full guy when it comes to most things. By no means do I want us to adopt a defeatist mindset, no defeatist attitude. I want to keep the war winning attitude because I believe we can win and we can have these effects. We just haven't done it as a society. So I don't want to hear anything about war winning. Don't, like, don't, I don't know how the metaphor goes, but don't piss in my food and tell me that it's raining. That kind of a thing. That just do not confuse this optimism and this hopeful feeling that we get sometimes. Let's not confuse that with our estimation of reality. The reality is that we are losing big time losing, and the gap is increasing. The only change that I've seen for the better, honestly, in this movement has been, while I've been in this movement, is like 2009. It's that people are more conscientious of like chemicals and toxins. I think more health conscious. They're less dependent on the food industry, and you have more vegans now, which means less slavery and suffering of living beings, right? Less recycling of negative energy, and that's good. Earthlings documentary came out in 2005. It seemed like we were heading in that same direction with vaccines when we talk about health. In 2016, you had the Vax documentary come out, but for some reason, people don't have the same compassion for children as they do for animals. That same kind of compassion for innocent human creatures. But I don't know. People get worked up about the Epstein files, I guess, and they can, but I don't really see people having the same passion and outrage for the children. You think about the vaccine damaged kids and their families, how much they feel. I won't attempt to quantify it. Sometimes I like to, because I kind of think this way. I want to put it on a chart, right? So for the next, vegan activist that talks to me, and of course we agree on veganism, but I want to give them that sheet and look at let's look at the percentages and say, like, what are we really in line on this, on what's important? And but of course you can't do that, right? I can't do that. That's a losing proposition, and I've done it before. In conversations where I try to point to the children, to the issues that I feel more passionately about, and it's always a losing proposition for me. I don't think I'm having victories in that field. So I won't try to quantify it, but just I want to point to this, and more I want to point to the reason why I think people don't have as much compassion for children. You know why I think it is? I think many human beings, deep down, they believe that they are a parasite on Earth. They believe that human beings are this disease to Earth. Subconsciously, they have bought that. It's an extension of original sin. See, the original sin of being alive. A lot of people just really think that humans are inherently toxic and dirty, right? They don't really like being a human being, Uh, Definitely, this extends to attitudes about sexuality, which it comes to my mind now, but I'm not gonna try to elaborate too much on that. It'll go into a tangent. But the way people see like the most intimate parts of them, of themselves, right, and how they are in relationships. Are they vulnerable? Are they emotionally healthy? I think that's an extension of that. How you feel about the human species, and of course, none of this is detached from each other. The way we treat each other, the way we think about ourselves in context of the family, and the way we treat our other, brothers and sisters, different species on this planet. It's all related. But the I really think people see themselves as an invasive species on their home planet. I think that's deep in the subconscious. That mentality is rooted in there, and we're not going to win anything as long as we have those ideologies in our subconscious and other ideas like fear of the unknown, the cycles of shame and lashing out, not really believing in individuality as opposed to collectivism. Like where power comes from, where value comes from. People think it comes from groups. That as long as that core idea is embedded there, we're not going to win anything. So that's misconception number one, that we're winning, right? Number two is a little bit different. It's this idea that the powers that be, the people within the system, that they're getting desperate, that the system is getting desperate. Um, there are many reasons why you would say this, right? Because the news cycle is like so frantic and crazy, right? That the things that people are saying about AI, the things that Trump is saying in the news, they're so wild. Things are so crazy in the power structure that it seems like they're getting desperate because the speed has increased, the frequency of mass traumatic events has increased. Um, Very sloppy operations. Um, and this is what people have pointed to and said for years, actually, for a long, long time, that I think they're getting desperate. I think the system is getting desperate. I think this belief is a misunderstanding of Killer Instinct. I think you're watching Killer Instinct, and that's what we're looking at with this system and how it's treating us. They are accelerating, but it's not desperation in the way that you think it is. Killer Instinct, and I'm gonna make a metaphor to mixed martial arts and fighting in general. If you don't relate to that, I get it, but I think it's a great metaphor for this. When you're beating someone in a fight, when you've seen this happen again and again, there's this response that when you have someone hurt, you increase your intensity even when you don't need to finish the fight. And that's everybody can feel it. The person who is hurt can feel it. The person who is near victory, who just hurt their opponent, they can feel it. The fans can feel it. There's a tension. Everyone who is seeing that, everyone recognizes this is a Killer Instinct type of a moment, and it's the same with sports in general. We can see this. Yeah, it's not just fighting specifically. So we come across, we ask these questions like, why are they so sloppy? Why is the system being so sloppy if they control everything? They just had another transgender shooting right at the hockey rink. Um, I haven't even really talked about that, but that is another, like, now I just mentioned this, that we haven't really, we had all this trans shooter hype, but not that many trans shootings, and now you've had two in 1 week. This is one of the things you look at and say, why did they do this? It's so sloppy. You look at the Trump assassination. That was sloppy. I can't believe they did that. Well, they did. Why the acceleration? The answer is, in life, bad things happen when you play with your food, so to speak. When you have someone in a dominant position, you have to finish the job. That is a very real thing, and you can say that it's karma when it goes the other way, but that happens, and we've seen it again and again, usually in sports and fighting, but this happens in life. I think you probably know it better than me. I'm trying to use the right words to describe this. You've seen this happen where you had something and you let it slip through your fingers. That's the idea. You have to finish the job. It's not so much of a superstition, but it does seem to have like a superstitious aspect to it, that if you don't finish it, it's going to come back to bite you. So the system, they're not afraid of us. They're just exercising their killer instinct because they have killer instinct. They may not have compassion, they may not have holistic intelligence, but they have killer instinct. So that's what you're saying. To me, it's not even superstition. It's just a basic property of momentum. It's gonna swing the other way if you let it swing. Everything is related, like I just said with the last point, right? Nothing is detached from each other. Everything is connected in a fractal way. So the way momentum goes, you've got something. You're about to beat this guy. You just have to, this arm wrestling. You've got an inch to go, and if you don't, they're gonna come back the other way. They're gonna get that momentum, and you're going to lose. That's why you push hard. It's not that you're really afraid of the opponent. See, it's not about the opponent. They're not desperate because of us. They're not afraid of us at all. Not in the sense that we think, anyway. I think the ruling classes are afraid in the sense that control freaks are paranoid. They just are. They're going to see threats even when there are no threats. That's the nature of the ideas they hold deep in their conscious and subconscious. Again, it's their fundamental worldview, their character, their metaphysics, which is, they also hold the view that they are not naturally adapted to life as a human on Earth. And this is known about psychopaths, that they don't relate to other human beings, so they really see themselves as like an alien. They see themselves as different from the other humans. So there's a lot of distrust, right? They learn how to manipulate other human beings, but they don't have the empathy, that they don't relate to them. That's part one, but part two of that is that the control freaks, they don't actually feel secure in themselves. That's why they're control freaks. That's why they need to control every part of society, get more and more information, to bring out these LLMs and AI models to get more and more information. They need to know. They feel like they need to know everything and get every little advantage that they can. Again, you think about like a championship fighter, they're going to be paranoid in the levels that they go to. And they're going to want to know everything about their opponent, because they are afraid. They don't actually feel confident that they'll be able to go out there and make it in the wild, so to speak. They don't feel comfortable in their ability to adapt. It has nothing to do with us. These are professionals. These are people with killer instinct, and they're going to do what they do regardless of what you do. They're still going to do that. So it looks to you like they're getting desperate. That doesn't mean you're in a good position. That means that they could see that you're close to losing. You're close to being done. And they are not going to let you do it. They're going to step on, they're going to keep the foot on our necks. They're going straight for the jugular. These are like predators, man, in the wild. It's just like that. So, getting desperate, right? Another big issue that I see is that the truth movement is obsessed with characters, individual characters, and individual events, like what's going on. See, the truth movement is always talking about the most recent thing that transpired in the world. It's like the news. I've fallen into the same trap. I do a show called This Week in Tyranny, which is like the news, right? Of course, I knew it from the beginning that that's not the point. The point was to be different from the news, right? I'll play along. We'll talk about what's going on, but really I'm trying to talk about this. I'm trying to talk about principles and philosophy. And the truth movement has never been principles and philosophy focused enough. They've always been politics and news focused way too much. And now, and it's just grown. It's just intensified. People are still obsessed with characters. And because now the characters are way more polarizing and have actually less depth than before, that's all we get stuck in talking about. We get stuck in talking about Trump and Charlie Kirk and Putin and Xi Jinping. Like, that's what we do. I listen to someone who's like an absolute heavyweight and legend in the truth movement and has done this for like 20, 30 years. And I'm not going to mention his name because I really don't want to be bitter, and it's not like, I feel like it's even been a mistake on my part where I have called out other researchers before, because it's not about that. But I listened to him talk for an hour and a half and made some great points. Great points. Like, I learned from this person. But it ends with Charlie Kirk being alive somewhere, maybe, because of all the things that went down um, with that situation, that assassination, and talking about Erica Kirk, how Erica Kirk is being set up to be some big player, influential person, and the connections around her, maybe the next vice president, maybe the next president. And that really gets on my nerves. We think on the level of, look at what they're trying to sell to us. They're fooling all these people with their stage show. That's what we think, right? Thank God I can see past it, because I'm seeing all the connections. I'm seeing that they're rolling this person out, they're rolling this person out, this person's a lie. And we look at that and observe that and we see, wow, I got the bird's eye view, I got the big picture, I can really see it. I don't think you can really see it. I don't think people are really seeing past the illusion, because we're still talking about the illusion. How is it possible that we can see all these crazy synchronicities, the crazy planning, all of the organization and interrelations, and then the sticking point is the actor? It's still the person. It's still talking about RFK. It's still talking about Prince Andrew. That's what always happens. And when we talk with the mainstream, they get stuck on that. That's why we don't make progress. We may say the truth along the way, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the truth is on page 460, if what they remember is page 499 or page 1. You know what I mean? It's the impact. And the impact is always the character, the actor, what they want you to talk about, whether you say this or that. And we talk about whether these people in these assassinations, whether they're alive or not, whether it's all AI, right? There's a lot of talk about AI and photos and videos, and whether or not things are real, like digital enhancement, and then photos, and then if this person is a clone, right? The cloning thing used to be a big thing in the freedom movement when I was starting to come into it, and it's still around. We've never grown past that. Because think about it, if you're talking about whether this person is real or whether this person is AI or this is a clone person, it's irrelevant. It's like, why are you even talking about it at all? Because the important thing is what the person is doing, what the impact is, what the philosophy is, whether or not systems are changing. Like, I saw the picture of Ghislaine Maxwell, and that the nose is different, and they were comparing those photos. I get it. I know people are drawn to characters, personalities. I am too. I talk about narrative all the time. Narrative is super important. Narrative is often way more important than the plot, than the record of events. And again, to make another fighting comparison, this is why you can get a guy that wins all of his fights, undefeated, but people don't like watching him because it ends up being, if he doesn't have a personality or if his fighting style is boring, it doesn't matter if he's the best. People are going to pay to watch the guy that's lost half his fights, but he has a compelling story. He makes you want to watch it. He makes you feel like it's important. It's all about the narrative you tell. That quote that one man dies, it's a tragedy, and 1,000,000 people die, it's a statistic, I know that's true. That is true, and I think it's natural for human beings. What's not natural is that the characters that you resonate with, that we resonate with, they're the puppet heads on TV. Like, they're not the actual characters. People are important, characters are important, individuals are important, and narratives are important. But we're talking about the plastic narratives, the ones that are put out, It's like a Hollywood movie, See, and that's much different than a fighter. Like, the person on TV, the Donald Trump, the Vladimir Putin, he's like a fighter. This is the person that we invest in to see what they're going to do in the octagon, in the ring, and see whether or not his ideas, you're following their life to see the battle actually play out. And the battle in this case would be the world stage, right? Whether or not who's going to win this war, what kind of deals are they going to make. That's the idea. That's the idea of politics. But the people we talk about never get in the cage. See, the fighter gets in the cage. Like you could say, oh, that they're not really relevant. People are obsessed with sports. People are obsessed with these competitions, and it's not actually real life. Well, they actually get into the cage. They take their clothes off. Like these people, like in the UFC, they come out and they're just covering protecting their organs. They're just wearing shorts and these little gloves, and they come out there and they got inside there. They got no PR, no media machine. Every step that they take, every movement that they make is recorded, played 1,000 times. They have to justify every movement they make. They get asked the hardest questions. And I've made this comparison before, and how do we treat the politicians? With kid gloves, honestly. You think we're hard on Donald Trump and Elon Musk? They're like a fighter that talks the game. They act like a fighter, like guys talking like Conor McGregor, but he never fights. They just play the role of the fighter. The fight takes place in the real world, and who ends up putting their body, their health on the line, and who does that is me and you. It's like these people talk on TV, and we go through the news and we argue about what happens, not really considering that that's kind of like, this is just like for the show, this is just for the fans. But who goes out into the world and has to walk the walk, to have to deal with the results and the effects and the decisions that are being made on this world stage. In fighting, it's the same person that was talking all the shit. In real life, the person that is talking all the shit is just collecting the tax revenue, and we're the ones who are fighting for them. Don't get any of the benefits of it. And just to summarize what this whole thing has been about, the truth movement is obsessed with characters and personalities, but they're not the real ones. And we're not thinking of ourselves as the character to be concerned with. What you actually experience in your life, what you see your family experiencing in life, the people you talk with, actually influencing them. Like, that's what's important. And just to go back to health and medicine, which is really important. This is one of the things that are crucial in the truth movement, and you could say that some progress has been made there, with food and water. With the things that are going on, ever since the pandemic, and kind of where health and medicine is today, with the system, it's not really about whether or not humans are more healthy, or why. They're not. I don't know how to say this. So I saw a report about universal vaccines that I think it was by Stanford. Yeah, Stanford, and they're coming out that they're close with these nasal sprays that protect not just against one kind of a disease, but they protect against the flu, against coronaviruses, respiratory stuff, and they're calling it a universal vaccine, but it's a spray that you take, and it doesn't last for many years. It lasts like every 6 months, so it's just something you take and you don't get sick. Apparently, it even helps against allergies. I was listening to several of these lectures. I wanted to play it, but then I figure, I won't get into that. But I'll reference it just the same. You get the gist of it. All I wanted to really point to is that when they talk about the receptors and the long-term immune system and what goes on, I don't think they're just talking mumbo jumbo. Obviously, I'm not experienced technically in the field, so I couldn't tell you. I don't really see it. I'm not an expert, but they're seeing what they're seeing under those microscopes. Like, there's some level of knowledge going on there. The issue is with their assumptions, and there's an assumption here that that is a good thing for the human direction, for human health, that you don't catch the cold, that you don't get sick, that that's supposed to be positive. It completely disconnects us from the overall human being and their health being viewed in the context of how they're living their life, what environment they're living in, right? I'm not just talking about the symptoms, but the causes, and what are maybe the purposes of a cold. I call it a seasonal update. And the way we have seen, when there's an island where a group of people lives there without contact with the rest of the world for years and years and years and generations, and then people make contact with them, they get sick and they die, right? So I don't care about the contagious aspect of it. It's like, it is a contact thing. Contact is a part of these seasonal and even serious illnesses, but it's all like within the context of like a software, like an update, and relations, how humans relate to each other and how humans relate to the environment. This goes way deeper, but it's not really to talk about all that. The point I'm trying to make is that the system, they don't even care as much whether we're healthy, like for our lifetime or not. The number one goal is to promote public health programs. They want to promote public health programs whether they're good or bad. And they want to promote the view that public health initiatives is the way you deal with health. Not you, not the person, right? Not the body itself, their natural defenses, but public health initiatives. And we're definitely losing on that front, as we've seen since the pandemic. This is it's one of those things you're not allowed to talk about. You're actually not allowed to talk about it if you make claims that you can treat an illness. Even though I could make crazy claims about like astronomy, that I can have magical powers that will make you rich. That's legal still. If I say it's not investment advice, right? But if you say it in the medical context, you will go to jail, and people have. Just wanted to mention that. But of course, there's an exception to every rule. So there's an exception here. Prince Andrew was arrested, right? He's no longer the artist formerly known as Prince Andrew, right? Andrew Mountbatten, I believe, has gone down. Of course, he's featured in Epstein files, and even before that, like, it was known for the longest that Prince Andrew, should we say, is connected, is wrapped up in pedophilia. I've certainly heard that way before. And 100% individuals need to be held responsible for their crime. So as much as I'm talking about, let's not focus on the celebrities, all the stuff that I've said, this is different, because we absolutely do. It is crucial and important to hold people accountable for their crimes. That is the point. And absolutely, we need these people to be held accountable for what they've done. That's different. And you can point to Prince Andrew being arrested and say, we did this, the people did this, the straight up pressure that has been put on governments and the royal family, the sheer pressure of this Epstein scandal, and you have to mention Pizzagate that came before it, the Podesta emails and all that stuff, WikiLeaks. You have to say that this is some progress that has been made, but again, I would make another fight comparison where, so you're winning the fight, but you may land a good shot here and there. A shot here and there is not necessarily a sign of winning the fight. And with the royal family, I don't think it's anything new, anything crazy to sacrifice one of them. They sacrificed Princess Diana, which is a completely different situation. So Prince Andrew maybe went down. Maybe he's going to go down. I wouldn't bet on it, right? You could say that they're gonna have an investigation, and maybe the thing that he goes down for is nothing even related to the real accusations against him. It would be something insignificant that may happen. But even if he does go down, Prince Andrew was already going down. You know, Epstein's gone. These are old men, and I don't think the global network of child trafficking and that structure has not been there has not been a budge, not a single budge made in that. The structures and the pressures that make victims not want to come out, that has not changed. Nor has any child network come any closer to being revealed. It's been a deflection, if anything, right? So it's kind of an exception, but it really isn't. Again, it's a high-profile face. They're gonna have a big trial, and one person's gonna go down, and that's nothing new. When the people see enough smoke, there's a fire where there's smoke. They put a figurehead, a scapegoat, and then business as usual. And I could go on, but really, this is what I was thinking about this weekend. And look how many years have passed by, and people still talk about the wrong things. We still go back to the same things. People are interested in the wrong things. I saw a report where we now have the first generation of children that is less cognitively capable than their parents. So, over the years, people have been getting more, should I say smarter? I guess you have to say smarter. Just more capable, which you would expect, right? And I feel like it's no coincidence that this is Generation Z that they're talking about, right? Gen Z. And Z is the last letter of the alphabet, right? It's almost like it's coming to an end, right? We talked about the killer instinct and finishing the fight. This really seems to be the downfall, the finishing, the last hurrah of human society. A very quick, a very quiet ending. It doesn't seem to be a blaze of glory or a big revolution like people foolishly, including me, used to think. It seems like the human species is going to go down quite quietly and pathetically. And Z is the last letter, and who do you have coming after them is Generation Alpha. You think about A, going from Z to A, that's the Great Reset. So maybe what's being reset is the cognitive capability of our children. And of course, this article that I'm going to link in the description, it blames the screens, the screens, the laptops, which of course is a huge part of it. But when you really think about this, I think this is the most important thing when we talk about change and we talk about what are the goals of the truth movement. I think it's all about the capability of our children, our cognitive, not just cognitive, but I'm gonna stick to the cognitive capability of our children, because that's what's important. Is really about ability. It's not about what we impart onto them, like what we teach them specifically. It's not their points of view, their feelings or rhetorical stances, but the ability to process information, to interact with reality, and what I call, I didn't come up with this, to be the dispatcher of your own tracks. You are laying your own tracks in life. So as a child, like, what's most important is, did your parents give you the ability to lay down your own tracks, which is, your life, your body is like a train, is like you are this vehicle, and you have to drive on a track. So these are the structures, and your parents lay down the tracks for you, of course, but really the point is not to lay down a whole track for your child so they can just get older and ride that track, because that's not what life is about. You help them, you start out, you put the first one, the second one on there, right? And then you let them do it, because it's about your ability to choose your path, and then you're going to have to travel that path. Everyone is going to have to um, ride the tracks that they have set up for themselves. It's like you made your bed, you lie in it. That's what it is. We are all going to experience the effects of our own causes, and the extent to which you can understand things and process things and have power to be your own agent, to have agency in life. That's the gift of life. The extent to which you can understand things, not just in a book sense, like how many equations can you do, your all of these academic abilities, but knowing and understanding the world, as even in a social context, understanding what's going on right now, being self-aware. There's a million things I could say, but it is really about your capability to respond to the world, and to significantly be able to alter your environment, and to be altered by the environment in a proper context and relation. It's how much you can understand and learn new things and experience new things. That's the most important thing. That's what the truth movement should be focused on. And that was my point of view on it. And we're going to keep going, and week after week. So I'll see you next week on This Week in Tyranny.